Hi guys, and welcome back to Tie TV. I'm Niklaus Bauer, and today we are going to tie this little fellow over here. This is actually a shanked fly tied on a worm hook. And the worm hook is a really good thing if you want to be able to fish that fly straight into the weed. Actually, you can throw it straight onto the bank and put it straight down in the water, and it will not snag. But the negative thing with these hooks is also they are slightly harder to hook the fish on it, because as they are designed to go with like a keel down, so they will not snag. But also, as you can see, there's a quite straight line here. This is just slightly out point. But even if these type of hooks will not be super good in hook rate, it's better to have that cool strikes and land one or two than not being able to catch them at all. So this parrot here with a dragon tail, this is a very good color. When I started my fishing career like 30 years ago, this was one of my favorite colors on lures. It's called a papegoi in Swedish, and it's really a good color. This pattern I like to fish when the pike has actually spawned and they're standing into the what we call in Swedish stubbvass, but these short weed beds. Just standing there because they don't want to go out in the open water. You can just throw this fly straight in, and because of how it's articulated and how we are going to play around with the hook, you're going to get a lot of cool strikes on this. So this is what we're going to tie. So what we're going to start out with, this is an Extreme Predator from Partridge, the lock bend. This is a 4-0. They have it in a 4-0 and a 5-0. What you want to do with these hooks when you start tying on them is you want to put them in the vise. You can take just a normal flat plier here, but what you want to do is you want to kind of bend that point slightly outwards so you get an offset to it, so it actually goes in an angle straight. That's going to make those hookup rates on those flies become much better. I'm going to push that back in the vise. So we're going to start out with attaching this titanium wire here to the extension for the dragon tail. I really like to fish these flies with a tail. Of course you can skip this part completely, just make a little bit longer tapered tail. But these fish are standing in the weed, maybe they're digesting the food or they're not really aggressive. So having this big tail pushing a lot of water is really the key to get these big fish to waken up. So I always fish these with a tail. So just as normal, we're going to run titanium wire. We're going to run your choice of bead. I'm going to run a yellow 2mm bead and a fast attach size 0. So we just attach that. We attach the fast attach and push that bead on to it. Like that, so you have everything in place. And this snap creates all the possibilities, so you can change that tail, or if you don't want to run the tail, or if you want to run a dragon tail or whatever. Simple. So we start with pushing some glue onto the hook here. We're only going to tie on this small piece here. We're going to try to keep this as naked as possible, because you want to have the material on top of this hook, not on the bottom, because you want that hook to ride like this and not turn. So it's important to keep the fibers on top of it. So we're just gonna fasten that thread. We're gonna push this on top here. So this titanium wire here, besides that it's actually being a very good extension for the tail, this titanium here, together with the material we're gonna tie on top of this, the bucktail here, is actually gonna work as a weed guard too. So we're going to have all the material on top and just leave that belly of the hook naked. And it will not be any problem, because when a fish kind of attacks this, it's just going to push this down, really simple. So it's not going to be any resistance for the fish to get that hook point. So we just cover that with some thread, and then we put some glue on there as normal. Now we have a strong start to this. we're gonna run this. I want these flies to be kind of yellow in the tail, so we're gonna run yellow or fluorescent yellow bucktail. I like to fish these with a bright fluorescent dragon tail, so I want that to match that tail a little bit here. And then we're gonna run some bright colors when it comes to the flashable. We're gonna write some yellow holographic, some mirage in yellow, and also some pearl dyed yellow. So we're gonna keep that in very bright colors. So this is just a normal bucktail dyed fluorescent yellow. Gonna take a nice bunch of that. Cut that off. Take all the short fibers off, or out actually. And then we're gonna tie this on top of the fly. I want to have these as long as possible so it actually covers this lock and bead and everything here, so we get a nice and tapered profile to the fly. So try to tie it on top and not too much around the hook. So we're just gonna kind of pushing that material all down there. Quite a big bunch of bucktail, so you have a nice weed guard to it. So now you want to have fibers like from this side to this side on a 180-degree angle. And that we succeeded in doing, so we're going to cut all that fibers off here. We don't need this at all here. And then just go through that a little bit. Now we're just going to cover this with flashable. So we're going to run some holographic yellow here. It's a really nice color. Cut that off, put it on the table. Then we're going to run some mirage in fluorescent yellow. All these colors that was really popular in the beginning, but everybody has a tendency to forget it. It's really, really nice in the water. And we're gonna run some pearl dyed fluorescent yellow. It's also a really nice, very bright color. There we go. So we have a slight bunch of each. So we're just gonna mix these together. As you know, the simple way to do it is just take a comb, run them between your thumb and your finger, and just comb it at the same time like this. And we're gonna get a nice mixture right away here. So as you can see, this is gonna be quite a big bunch of material, but we're gonna run half of this on the tail, and we're also gonna run some of this on the body. So nice bunch, nice mixture. And usually when you mix it like this, you get a nice taper to it too. So you don't have to think about tapering the ends of this. So we're gonna take roughly half of this, and we're gonna tie this in like 60% in the back and 40 in your hand. Try to spread it nicely even to the bucktail, so you get that nice, like an umbrella kind of feeling over them, and not too bulky. Try to keep that volume on the fly the whole time. Make a few turns, give a good pull, fold that over, and just secure that. So now you can see we have this. This is actually going to work as a weed guard too, together with the titanium. We have a few fibers sticking down here. That's not good. Just gonna cut some of those off, because I don't want that. I want that naked hook. So on this side is good, but on your side we had a few fibers. So basically everything tied on the top of that. Nice taper, and that tail is gonna fit perfectly inside of here. So now we're gonna run some polar reflector flash here, just as a body material up to the hook eye. Simple and great stuff this. Just makes a lot of volume and also super simple to work with. So just a drop of super glue to kind of get this all secure here. And And if you're a little bit crazy, you can actually wrap this in the wet glue, because it doesn't make any difference. It's just going to be a even more strong fly here. So just body wrap this forward, nice and tight here, all the way to the end. So we just tie that off like that, and we cut that off. So we just fold this material back now, make a small nice head there. We're actually gonna color that. Just gonna disappear for 1 second here. We're just gonna use a yellow marker, because I don't want to have this white thread shining through here. I don't think the pike will ever see this, but kind of fussy about things like this. And then we're just gonna make a whip finish, so that's strong and secure, and just throw some glue on the thread here where we still have it painted yellow. And we're just gonna cover that a few wraps and cut it off. So that's basically the rear hook. We got that titanium wire, we got that bucktail, nice and high, a lot of air inside it, and then that nice keel to that hook. So we're gonna take this out here. You can see that's where we're gonna put that here. You see? So we're gonna use articulated shank. This is from the Flyman company, and this is a 35mm shank, stainless steel, so it's really durable. So we're gonna use that. So we take this fly here, and we push that shank through the hook eye, like that. And then we attach this to the vise. I like to kind of, some vices you have to play around a little bit with, so you get that nice good position. You want to be out in this shank loop here as much as possible, because you want to make a few wraps here, so close that shank really good. I actually have a magnet here, as you can see, so I kind of just place the hook onto that magnet, and it's just secure and nice. So we're just gonna start with some super glue, and then we're just gonna wrap these two parts together here. We're not gonna have that strand in there, so we're just gonna wrap this together. So we close the shank. I usually put another drop of glue here, because you want to close this a little bit more. So you want to work with your thread towards the left here, so it creates like a round loop instead of that teardrop loop. It can tangle in that one, so just try to close it as much as possible, and you will have a nice secure fly. Then we're gonna run some of that polar reflector flash again, and I always like to, when I tie articulated flies like this, I kind of like how I end it. I want to start it again the same way. So we're just going to start this with some wraps of this, just to get that nice filling here. It's also a good way, because it's actually quite hard to get your fingers and stuff in here when you're going to tie something else. So this is actually a very good way to just start the fly here. And when they cut and when they make these shanks, this part here can actually sometimes be very sharp. So when you go over that, be very gentle with the thread, so it doesn't cut your thread. And then just a drop of glue. I want to wrap this to where that double shank ends. So we're just going to wrap this nice here. Fold the material backwards the whole time. So this is where the position where the double shank ends, and we're just going to go into a single wire. Just one more extra turn there, and then we're just going to tie that off. That's nice and secure. Gonna put that aside. And so now we have like a nice transit here. You cannot really see that gap, but you're still gonna get that nice articulation here. So now we wanna try to get that a little bit more red feeling to it. So what we're gonna run now first, we're gonna run a bucktail collar, which is red on top and yellow on the belly. And then the last bucktail collar is going to be basically almost all red. So first the mixture, we're gonna tie 2 feathers on this, and then we're gonna continue with some flash on that. So once again, some bucktail. It's not often that you have a problem with the bucktail is too long. Seems like I have that once again here. Put some of that yellow on the table. And then we're gonna run some red here on top. So we're just gonna push some of those short fibers out because they just make a lot of volume and bulkiness, and you don't really want to have that on the head. We're gonna run the same with the yellow here. So once again, this is a little bit too long, so I actually have to cut that off quite a bit, sadly. And now we're going to hollow tie this, so we're gonna tie this forward and then turn it backwards. But I want the yellow to be on the belly, so we're gonna try to get as much as this yellow on the belly as possible. Like that. And then we're gonna run the red on top. And then just give some good pulls to that thread so it gives a good, nice lift to the material. So that's basically what we wanted to do here. We're gonna cut all these short fibers off. Like that. We don't want that at all. A few wraps again. You take your favorite tool, like just any tube, and then you just push those fibers over and just massage them down a little bit so we get that nice angle to them right away, like a 45-degree angle. Just gonna see if I can get all these fibers on top of this here. And then you just go straight with your bobbin in front and try to create that support for that bucktail collar here. Sometimes you need to wrap quite a few times to get that angle. Now we got a nice 45-degree angle. It's slightly more yellow on the belly and red on top of it. So I'm pretty happy with that. We're just gonna put a hair clamp there. Put a nice drop of glue there so we make it nice and secure. Can make a few turns more so we have a nice secure place there. And then we're gonna run some red on top here just to get that nice creation here. We're also gonna add those 2 yellow feathers here. And then we want to run some of this mixture we already created here on the belly, but just slightly shorter. So we're gonna go for 2 yellow fibers. I mean, you can leave this out if you want. This is a Whiting American Rooster saddle. And these are really cool because you have really, really big schlappen feathers up here that are great, but we're gonna run something that is slightly thinner in diameter and also not as wide. Actually, I'm trying to find feather that are looking more like this, a little bit longer, a little bit more narrower. See if I can find another one. They're usually on the sides on these guys. Here's one that are very similar, I think. I hope, at least. That makes a nice pair. So I want this as the back of the fly here. So they're very similar in texture and in size. I'm just gonna pull some of these marabou-like fibers off here. So we don't want those in the fly, or they will not be visible in any case. So we have them basically quite naked like that. And feathers tied in on a shank like this can sometimes be a problem for people, but a good thing is to tie them in a slightly wet glue, and also when you tie them in and kind of pull them in straight. So we just make a few gentle wraps and then just pull them in like that, so you get that angle of the feather that you want, and you want it to be facing or standing straight, like in a 45-degree angle up in the wing. So we're going to try to make the same on the other side here. Don't use too much force when you're pulling the thread around, because that's usually what creates them to twist. See if we can get that in there. So we get that, really get that angle up there. There we go. So I want them on top like that. Just gonna secure them with a few thread wraps, then just go over. So that's kind of the angle I want on those two feathers. And then we want to add some of these mixture of yellow and holographic yellow here, but we're also going to add some holographic flashable in red. Not too many, but maybe 10 strands, full length, and we're just going to taper them a little bit like that. We're going to take a few of this mixture we had on the tail here that we're also going to use for the belly, maybe 8 or 10 strands. Just throw them into that mixture, and then we're going to tie them in on top of this here. Tie them in like a 60-40 once again, something like that. Try to get as much of those fibers on top here, a nice good spread. Basically we have that a little bit more red kind of feeling to it. Then we're gonna run, we can actually put a drop of super glue here so things stay where it's supposed to be. We're just gonna run a few of these fibers again here. We fold that up, cut them up, and just as normal we just taper those ends again. Just like that. So you have a nice mixture, and we're just gonna tie this on the belly here. Nothing fancy, just slightly shorter, same mixture, and fold it over. So we get that nice fly. So that's basically, we have the tail, we have that first full bucktail collar that we tied reversed, and we tied 2 feathers. And now we're starting to create this little bit darker back to it. So we're just gonna put a nice drop of glue here, cover this, because we're definitely going to need that when the fish starts to strike this. And then we're just gonna go all the way forward, because this is what we're gonna leave completely naked. And now we're just gonna run some red bucktail in front of this, and that's gonna create that lift for that predator dubbing head. So we're just gonna do exactly like we did before, but just with one color. This is just a pure red. Take all those short fibers away. Very important now when we're getting closer to the head too. So we're gonna run a bunch this size, like a normal bunch actually. And then we're just gonna try to get all those fibers around the whole shank. If you just work a little bit with your thread so you can see them coming towards you, give that good pull, kind of work yourself through that. And we're just gonna clamp that down with the hair clamp, and just here you can actually, if you want to, you can leave some of this red so it covers those thread wraps, even if nobody is ever gonna see this. But it looks pretty nice like that. Then you're gonna go with your reverse tool again, and we are going to just fold that material back like that. Try to keep a lot of volume here. And we're just gonna go forward with that thread again. Try to really moisture those up, kind of giving that angle right away. And once again, create that little support for the bucktail here, back and forward so it doesn't fold. And we have that now nice support there. Once again, glue. I think I should buy stocks in glue. So there we go. So we got that. Now we just want to make a nice mixture of some holographic olive, holographic red, and some little bit darker colors to make a nice back to this fly. So what I'm gonna run here is holographic olive, really nice color. Just gonna run like 8-10 strands of that. We're gonna run some pearl dyed olive, same here. We're not gonna run too many of that, 6 or 7 strands. Ooh. And we are going to run some red. So we're gonna start out with the red. That's what we're gonna use first. And then we're gonna mix these two greenish colors here, or olive colors, just like normal. Run it through with your comb very quickly like that. Make sure that they're tapered. Place them on the table. So we're gonna take that red because we want that underneath. So we're just gonna make sure that they are tapered. And we're gonna tie them in, and we're gonna tie them in once again 60-40. Some Flashaboo bugging me here. So there we go. We're just gonna fold those over like that. So we're gonna get that nice back to it. Then we're gonna take this fairly bigger bunch of olive, and we're gonna tie it in, same again, 60-40. Just maybe slightly in front of this. You can go over too if you want to. And we're gonna fold those fibers over. Press it with your thumb a little bit so you get a nice spread to it, and lock them in place. So now we're starting to get that kind of olive tone to it. We got those yellow fibers in there and a nice kind of overpass to this. We can actually run just a few fibers of red in the belly now, so we get that nice contrast over there. So just gonna run like 3 or 4 maybe. This is probably gonna be 5 strands of holographic red here. So we're just gonna fold those up, keep them shorter on the belly, cut that up, taper those ends, and flip it around, and we're just gonna tie those in on the belly here. Whoops. Try to spread those evenly out here, and then just fold those over. So now we got a nice colors on here, a little bit red, olive. So now we're just gonna finish this off with a nice head of predator dubbing. So we're just gonna put some glue on here to secure everything. And then we're gonna make this fluffy head onto here. And this is a really cool material. It's called predator dubbing. And it's a synthetic fiber, but it's a long synthetic fiber. And it's really cool to make heads of. I mean, if you want to run it just like we are now, this is just, the eyes are glued on with epoxy, and then you just keep it like that. Or otherwise, if you want, you can glue them on, and then you can push some UV glue into the gap between the eyes, and you're actually going to create a completely different head shape to it. And also different movement, because you're going to get a faster water pushing that head now. So that's up to you. We're going to run it this way. So first we're going to run, you want to have a little bit space here when you're doing this, because it depends on how bulky head you want, but it really covers the head really nice. So it doesn't matter if you have a little bit gap in between the dubbing, because you're going to cover that with the eyes in any case. So we're going to run olive on the top and some red as a cheek, and then we're going to go all the way around with olive afterwards. So pull some of these fibers off. Already did that. Keep the bag like this, hold the bag like this, and just pull the fibers out. And then just kind of get the fibers into a nice and straight like that. We're going to do the same with the red color, call it red row. Do the same here. Pull some of those fibers off. And then we're going to tie the belly in first. So we're going to tie these in actually slightly longer. So maybe a 60-40 even here, the first bunch. So we're going to tie those in on the belly, like that. Trying to get those fibers roughly only on the belly. That. Fold those down. And just secure that. We're gonna run the same with olive here. But we're only gonna run, same here, we're gonna run half of that bunch, but we're gonna do like a 60-40 again here on the top to get that nice tapering from where the flashable goes into the dubbing. Then we're gonna fold that over like that. Make a few turns, secure that. Just take a brush like this and you can kind of comb it together. Super simple to work with this material, and the outcome is usually always really cool. So we're just gonna run one more bunch of olive. Take that, kind of work it through. And if you want to have a mixture of these two, or whatever colors they are, you can just pull them together, comb it out like this, and you're gonna have really cool mixtures. But this is the dirty olive, and we're gonna try to run this as just one shot now, all around here. So just one shot, going all around, going in front of that last one. Gonna comb that out. See if we made that nice. It's supposed to cover all around the head. I think we got it pretty good. I want a lot of that red to be visible, so keep it looking like that bloody cheek. So we're just gonna fold that back. Gonna make a few wraps here, and once again, just gonna color that thread with some olive, just because I don't want to see those thread wraps in white in front of that. So we're just gonna make a few turns like that. We're gonna make that a good locking there, and then we're just gonna put some glue where we still have some colored thread. Nice and secured. And we are basically done after 2 eyes on this bad boy. Just gonna work with your comb here through this so we get a nice mixture like that. And then we're gonna take this clamp again here. I'm just gonna push it straight onto that so we get a nice and solid base to put those eyes. So we're actually gonna run this basically over that joint so we can have a nice base to put the eyes. So we're gonna run this back here, put the big hook actually in the vise like that. It's gonna be a little bit articulated here in the front, but usually works pretty well if you're gentle. And we're gonna run some eyes on this. I like to run a little bit oversized eyes on these flies because that looks really, really cool. I was thinking about, I don't know if we're gonna go that color or if we're gonna go yellow. What does the photographer say? Yellow or orange?
Let me see. Orange.
Orange, okay. So we're gonna go with orange. Good job. I know Pontus loves this fluorescent stuff, so do I, so I'm gonna run that. Once again, epoxy to glue them on. It's a big surface, so you need to have a good glue to glue them on. So we're just gonna run that same amount we usually do for 2 eyes, so it's just a drop basically. And the same of the hardener. We're gonna mix those together. A lot of people I have on tying courses and stuff like that, they are really afraid to use epoxy. And usually it's because you don't use it often enough, so you get used to how you handle it. But if you just handle it the right way, it's not really a problem to do it. But one thing I think when you do it like this is that instead of working with the bobbin like this, you can kind of work with the bobbin straight, so you can actually push the glue dubbing needle. I say so. So you just work with a straight dubbing needle, trying to push that material, or actually push that glue into the material like this. So you make that strong, good position for the eyes. And then we just glue these eyes on here, kind of lean them back, push it in the wet glue. And all these thousands of fibers of predator dubbing is going to grab those eyes really, really well. So we're just going to make sure that these are nice and secure. Give them a good press like this so the glue really goes into the material and also covering all the base of the eye. And we're just going to kind of fold them together like that. And we just have to let this bad boy dry.
Fast forward.
So we'll come back after 5 minutes of a drying session. Just gonna take away that clip. You can see we have a nice head here. We have that naked hook. We have quite a bulky profile to that fly. Of course there's some fluorescent things in this, as the tail and on the eye, which Pontus choose here. And we're just gonna put a dragon tail here, which I made when we let everything dry here. So there you go, the weedless parrot with the big dragon tail. It's a really, really cool pattern. Just throw it straight into the weed, let it sink down, fish it aggressively, and you're gonna have some really, really cool takes. Let them really eat that, don't strike really fast, let them eat the fly, so they actually almost hook themselves. That's the best way. Simple fly, and of course you can always just turn around and use a normal hook here, and you can have it as a normal fly. If you want to win this fly, you have the chance. Leave a comment, follow Fly Dressing on Instagram if you like fly tying. Have a great evening.